For 3 years I watched Mom get weaker. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday: stage 3 breast cancer. Aggressive. Expensive. The oncologist's office handed us a treatment plan that looked more like a mortgage statement. $225,000 for the full course of treatment, surgery, radiation, and medications. Dad sat in the passenger seat of my car afterward, staring at the paperwork. "We don't have this kind of money," he whispered. "The insurance will cover maybe 60%. Maybe." I'd been living at home since my divorce 2 years earlier, paying $800 monthly rent to help with household expenses. What my parents didn't know was that I'd been rebuilding my life methodically. The marketing consultancy I started from their basement had grown into something substantial. While they saw me in pajamas working on my laptop, I was pulling in $35,000 monthly from Fortune 500 clients. "Don't worry about the money," I told Dad that afternoon. "I'll handle it." He looked at me like I'd offered to fly to the moon. "Honey, this isn't a few $1,000s for car repairs." But I'd already made the decision. The next morning I called the oncology center's financial coordinator. "This is regarding Patricia Chen's treatment plan. I'll be handling all payments directly." The treatment started immediately. Every 2 weeks another bill arrived. Surgery, $45,000. Chemotherapy cycles, $12,000 each. Radiation, $28,000. Medications, $3,200 monthly. I paid each invoice the day it arrived, wire transfers from my business account. Mom never asked where the money came from. During her first round of chemo, when she was too sick to keep food down, she held my hand in the hospital room. "I don't know how we're managing this financially," she whispered. "Your father says the insurance is better than expected." I squeezed her hand. "Don't worry about money. Just focus on getting better." What I didn't tell her was that I'd also been covering the household expenses she couldn't manage. Mortgage payments of $2,100 monthly. Utilities averaging $340. Groceries, car payments, her prescriptions. By month 6 of treatment I was spending $18,000 monthly on family expenses beyond my rent. My business was growing, so the money flowed easily. But more than that, seeing Mom get stronger made every dollar worth it. The treatments worked. After 18 months, Mom's scans came back clear. The cancer was gone. At her final oncology appointment, Dr. Martinez smiled as he reviewed her charts. "You've responded incredibly well to treatment. I want to see you every 3 months for monitoring, but you're officially in remission." Mom cried. Dad cried. I cried. We went to dinner that night at her favorite Italian restaurant, and she raised her wine glass. "To beating cancer," she said. "And to whatever miracle made it possible for us to afford the best treatment available." I clinked my glass against hers, knowing that miracle had been 24 months of strategic invoice payments totaling $267,000. But seeing her healthy and happy was worth every cent. That's when my sister Sarah entered the picture. Sarah lived in Portland with her husband Marcus and their 2 kids. She'd visited twice during Mom's entire treatment, both times for less than 48 hours. During Mom's lowest points, when she couldn't keep water down and Dad was falling apart from stress, Sarah sent care packages with organic tea and motivational books. But 3 weeks after Mom's remission celebration, Sarah announced she was getting divorced. "It's been coming for months," she told Mom during their daily phone call, which I overheard from the kitchen. "Marcus wants the house and his lawyer says I might not get much. I need to start over somewhere I have family support." Within days, the conversation shifted from Sarah needing emotional support to Sarah needing financial support. And housing support. And childcare support for 8-year-old Emma and 6-year-old Jake. "She could use your old room," Mom suggested to me one evening in November. "You've been talking about getting your own place anyway." I had been talking about it mostly because my business required more space and privacy for client calls. But I hadn't expected the conversation to become urgent. "There's no rush," I said. "Sarah can have the guest room until she finds something permanent." Mom shook her head. "The guest room is too small for her and the kids. And she'll need time to get back on her feet. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year." The timeline kept extending. By Thanksgiving, Sarah had driven cross-country with a U-Haul and 2 confused children. She moved into the guest room temporarily while Mom started rearranging the house around her daughter's new life. "We should convert the garage into a playroom," Mom announced. "Emma and Jake need space to spread out." The basement could be Sarah's office, Dad added. She'll need somewhere professional for video calls once she starts job hunting. I noticed my rent was never discussed. Even though Sarah wasn't contributing financially, and even though her kids had added $400 monthly to grocery bills and utilities, my $800 monthly payment continued like clockwork. I didn't mind. The house felt alive with children's laughter again, and Mom seemed energized by having grandchildren nearby. Christmas morning changed everything. Sarah had been living there for a month. The kids had settled into new schools. Sarah had started a remote customer service job that paid $2,800 monthly, barely enough to cover her car payment, child support obligations to Marcus, and basic personal expenses. We were opening presents in the living room. Emma and Jake were surrounded by toys that Dad had clearly overspent on. Sarah opened a jewelry box containing diamond earrings that must have cost $800. Then Mom handed me my gift. A Target gift card for $25. I know you don't need much, Mom said, hugging me. You're so self-sufficient. I smiled and thanked her, but something felt off. The diamond earrings for Sarah, the expensive toys for kids who'd been in the house for 30 days, and a gift card for me. I brushed it off as Mom wanting to make Sarah and the kids feel welcomed. The conversation after dinner revealed the real situation. We need to talk about housing arrangements, Mom said, settling into the couch beside Dad. Sarah was upstairs putting the kids to bed. Sarah needs stability, Dad continued. The kids are finally adjusting to their schools here. She can't afford her own place on her current salary, and moving again would be traumatic. Mom nodded. Your room is perfect for her. It has the ensuite bathroom and it's closest to the kids' room across the hall. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What about me? You've been saying you want your own place, Mom replied. This might be the perfect timing. Sarah needs to be here with family support. You're independent and successful. It makes sense. Sarah's planning to stay long-term? I asked. Until she gets back on her feet, Dad said. Maybe 2 or 3 years, depending on how quickly she can build her career back up. I looked around the living room where I'd been living for 2 years, where I'd worked 70-hour weeks building my business, where I'd managed every aspect of Mom's cancer treatment while maintaining the household. When would you need me to move out? We were thinking New Year, Mom said gently. That gives you a few weeks to find something. And Sarah could start the new year fresh with her own space. January 2nd. That was the deadline. I spent the next week apartment hunting, though my heart wasn't in it. I'd saved Mom's life with $225,000 in medical payments. I'd kept the household running with another $50,000 in mortgage and utility payments during her treatment. I'd never missed my rent, never caused problems, never brought drama into their home. But Sarah needed my room. On New Year's Eve, I sat in my room packing boxes while Sarah's kids ran through the hallways playing with their Christmas toys. I could hear Mom and Sarah in the kitchen, laughing as they planned renovations for Sarah's room. Paint colors, new furniture, closet organization systems. The final conversation happened on January 1st. I found a place, I told Mom and Dad over breakfast. I can move out this week. Mom looked relieved. That's wonderful, honey. We're so proud of how independent you've become. Sarah's excited to have her own space, Dad added. The kids need consistency and she needs to focus on rebuilding her life. I nodded. I understand. Family first. Exactly, Mom smiled. Sarah's been through so much with the divorce. She needs our support right now. That afternoon I started making phone calls. The first call was to Blue Cross Blue Shield. I need to cancel Patricia Chen's supplemental insurance policy, effective immediately. I'm the policyholder and have been covering the premiums. Mr. Chen, this policy covers her cancer monitoring appointments and potential future treatments. Are you sure you want to cancel? I'm sure. The second call was to Mom's Oncology Center. This is regarding Patricia Chen's account. I'll no longer be covering her quarterly monitoring appointments. Please bill the insurance directly and send any remaining balances to her home address. The third call was to Citibank. I need to remove the automatic payment for the mortgage on 142 Maple Street. I've been covering those payments for 2 years. Sir, if those payments stop, the account will become delinquent within 30 days. I understand. The fourth call was to Pacific Gas and Electric. Please remove the secondary payment method on account number 7749. I'll no longer be covering utility bills for that address. I made 12 more calls that afternoon. Car insurance payments for both of my parents' vehicles. The lawn service I'd been paying for since Mom couldn't maintain the yard during chemotherapy. The housekeeper who came twice monthly. The grocery delivery service that had made Mom's life easier during recovery. Every service I'd been quietly covering for 2 years, I methodically canceled. On January 3rd, I moved into a downtown loft that cost $2,800 monthly, more than triple what I'd been paying at home, but worth it for the space and privacy my business required. I didn't tell my parents about the insurance cancellations. I didn't mention the mortgage payments or utilities. I hugged Mom goodbye, thanked them for letting me stay during my rebuilding years, and promised to visit soon. 2 weeks later, Mom called. "There's been some kind of mistake with my insurance," she said, sounding confused. "They're saying my cancer monitoring appointments aren't covered under my current plan. The oncology center wants $1,200 for last week's appointment." "That's strange," I replied. "Did you call the insurance company?" "Your father spent an hour on the phone with them. They keep saying something about a supplemental policy being canceled, but we never had a supplemental policy." I made sympathetic sounds while reviewing client reports at my new desk. "Insurance companies are so complicated. I'm sure you'll figure it out." 3 days later, Dad called about the mortgage. "The bank says we're behind on payments," he said, panic clear in his voice. "They're claiming the last payment was in December, but I know the automatic withdrawal should have happened in January. Maybe it's a processing delay?" I suggested. "They want $2,100 immediately plus a $75 late fee. I don't understand what happened to the automatic payment." "Technology glitches happen," I said calmly. "I'm sure you can get it sorted out." By the end of January, the calls were coming daily. The lawn service wanted $340 for 3 months of unpaid bills. The housekeeper demanded $280 in back payments. Pacific Gas and Electric had sent a disconnect notice. Car insurance for both vehicles had been canceled for non-payment. Mom called crying on February 1st. "I don't understand what's happening," she sobbed. "All these bills are coming due at once and none of our automatic payments are working. The insurance company says I owe $4,800 for medical appointments, and if I don't pay, they'll send it to collections." I listened to her cry while I reviewed my business profit reports. January had been my best month ever, $47,000 in revenue. Moving out had eliminated my family expenses and freed up almost $20,000 monthly. "Can you ask Sarah to help with some of the bills?" I suggested gently. "Sarah's barely covering her own expenses," Mom replied. "And she's trying to save money for her own place eventually. We can't ask her to pay household bills when she's our guest." Our guest. That's what she called the daughter who'd taken my room and displaced me from the house I'd been supporting financially. "What about Dad's pension and Social Security?" I asked. "That covers basic food and utilities but not these extra expenses." During the cancer treatment, everything seemed to work itself out. The insurance covered more than expected and somehow all the bills got paid. I thought we were managing fine on Dad's income. They'd never been managing on Dad's income. For 2 years I'd been covering 60% of their living expenses. The mortgage, the utilities, the insurance, the medical bills, the services that made Mom's life manageable during and after cancer treatment. But they'd never asked how the money appeared. They'd never wondered why insurance claims processed so smoothly. They'd never questioned how a family with $3,200 monthly income could afford a $225,000 cancer treatment. February 15th brought the foreclosure notice. Dad called sobbing. "We're going to lose the house. The bank wants 3 months' payments immediately, $6,300, or they'll start foreclosure proceedings." I don't know how this happened. The automatic payments worked for years. "I'm so sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. I didn't want them to lose their home. But I wasn't going to pay their mortgage while Sarah lived in my former room rent-free. "Is there any way?" Dad's voice trailed off. "Could you possibly help us with a loan? I know you're doing well with your business." I paused, considering. They were asking for help now, but 3 months ago, they'd prioritized Sarah's comfort over my housing. They'd never acknowledged the financial support I'd provided. They'd never asked how their bills got paid during Mom's treatment. "Dad, I wish I could, but I've got a lot of business expenses right now. The new office space, equipment purchases. My available cash is tied up. It wasn't true. I had $85,000 sitting in business savings. But they'd made their choice about family priorities. March brought desperation. The electricity was shut off on March 3rd. The gas was shut off on March 7th. Sarah had to move the kids to Marcus's house temporarily because the house was unlivable without utilities. Mom called sobbing. Sarah's talking about moving back to Portland. She says we can't provide a stable environment for the kids. After everything we've done to support her recovery from the divorce. That's probably for the best, I said gently. She needs to rebuild her independence anyway. But she's family, Mom cried. She needs us right now. Maybe she needs to figure out how to support herself, I replied. The conversation ended with Mom hanging up on me. On March 15th, I got a text from Sarah. Mom and Dad are losing their house because of unpaid bills. They think you could help but won't. This is your family. How can you be so selfish? I replied, I lived there for 2 years, paid rent every month and helped however I could. When you needed my room, I moved out without complaint. Now they're asking for money I don't have available. I'm sorry things are difficult. Sarah's response came immediately. You have a successful business. Don't lie about not having money. You're choosing to let your parents become homeless rather than help family. I didn't respond. Let her believe I was selfish. It was easier than explaining that I'd spent $275,000 keeping that family afloat while they credited good insurance and Dad's pension for their financial stability. The foreclosure sale was scheduled for April 12th. On April 1st, Mom made one final call. Please, she whispered into the phone. We'll lose everything. 40 years of marriage and we'll lose our home. I know I hurt you by asking you to move out. I know Sarah took your place in the house. But we're desperate. I sat in my beautiful loft office, looking out at the city skyline, listening to the woman whose life I'd saved with a $250,000 investment. The woman who'd hugged me and called me her hero. The woman who'd kicked me out 3 months later for the golden child who couldn't cover her own car payment. Mom, I understand you're scared. But I can't take responsibility for everyone else's financial problems. You and Dad are adults. Sarah's an adult. Everyone needs to figure out their own solutions. You don't understand, she cried. We never asked for help before. We've always been independent. That was the moment I realized they genuinely didn't know. 2 years of payments and they thought their bills had paid themselves. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you think the cancer treatment got paid for? Silence. The $225,000 in medical bills. Your insurance covered 60%. How did you think the other $90,000 got handled? More silence. And during treatment when you couldn't work and Dad was stressed, how do you think the mortgage got paid every month? I could hear her breathing but she didn't speak. The supplemental insurance that covered your monitoring appointments. The lawn service during your recovery. The housekeeper who helped when you were too weak to clean. How do you think those bills were managed? Finally she whispered, I don't know. I thought we were just managing better than expected. You were managing because someone else was paying. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Who? She asked. Me, Mom. For 2 years I covered your medical bills, your mortgage, your utilities, your insurance, your services. Every month I spent $15,000 to $20,000 keeping this family stable. That's impossible, she breathed. I can show you bank records. Wire transfer receipts. Insurance payment confirmations. Every bill you thought was being handled by insurance or Dad's pension was actually being covered by my business income. I could hear her crying. When you asked me to move out for Sarah, you weren't just asking me to give up my room. You were asking me to give up my home while continuing to pay for yours. Sarah moved into the room I was paying rent for, in the house I was supporting financially, while you asked me to find my own place. We didn't know, Mom sobbed. You didn't ask. For 2 years you never wondered how the money worked. You just accepted that cancer treatment was affordable and life was manageable. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never asked. And because I wanted to help. But when you chose Sarah's comfort over my housing, you made it clear where your priorities were. We can fix this, she said desperately. Sarah can move out. You can come back. We'll figure out the bills together. Mom, I have my own place now. My business requires professional space. And I'm not going to move back into a house where I was disposable when someone else needed my room. So you'll let us lose our home? I looked out my office window at the city I could now enjoy living in, the space where I could build my business without family chaos, the independence I'd gained by stepping away from financial responsibility for adults who'd never appreciated the support. I'll let you figure out your own financial situation, just like I figured out mine. After everything we've done for you? What exactly have you done for me? The question hung in the air. She couldn't answer because there wasn't an answer. For 2 years the support had flowed in one direction. From my business account to their household needs. We raised you, she said finally. And I spent $275,000 keeping you stable during your cancer treatment. I think we're even. I hung up the phone. The foreclosure sale happened on schedule. Mom and Dad moved into a senior living apartment that cost $1,800 monthly, nearly their entire Social Security income. Sarah moved back to Portland with the kids, where she got a full-time job and rented a 2-bedroom apartment she could actually afford. I sent Mom a card on her birthday 6 months later. Inside I wrote, "I hope you're doing well in your new home. I'm grateful your cancer remains in remission. Love, your son who saved your life." She never responded. My business grew to $75,000 monthly revenue by the end of that year. I bought a house with a guest room that stays empty most of the time, because I learned that sometimes the people you sacrifice for will choose someone else the moment it's convenient. But every month, I put $2,000 in a savings account labeled Mom's Emergency Fund. Because despite everything, if her cancer comes back, I'll pay for her treatment again. That's the difference between us. She chose favorites when it was easy. I choose family even when it's hard. But I'll never choose to be disposable again.